What is the Instagram algorithm? How do Instagram rank stories and content in the feed? How do you rank your content on the explore page to virally grow your account? How do Instagram rank reels, and why are some of them going crazy while some of them get no attention? What is the actual truth about shadow banning? How do you influence what content you see more of on the platform? All of this and much more was just revealed by the Instagram CEO himself, Adam Mosseri, in a brand new blog post on the Instagram's blog titled Shedding More Light on How Instagram Works by Adam Mosseri, June 8th, 2021. And so today we're going to go over that article, dissect it, read between some lines, and add my own experiences from the past 7 years of building, growing, and monetizing Instagram profiles for myself and clients. Now, this article is similar to the one they posted in December last year, going over exactly how the algorithm works. I made a video on that here, which you guys seem to enjoy, so I figured why not make another one on this new piece of information. Anyway, let's get into it. So the first heading is titled, What is the algorithm? One of the main misconceptions we want to clear up is the existence of the algorithm. Instagram doesn't have one algorithm that oversees what people do and don't see on the app. We use a variety of algorithms, classifiers, and processes, each with its own purpose. We want to make the most of your time, and we believe that using technology to personalize your experience is the best way to do that. When we first launched in 2010, Instagram was a single stream of photos in chronological order. But as more people joined and more people shared, it became impossible for most people to see everything, let alone all the posts they cared about. By 2016, people were missing 70% of all of their posts in the feed, including almost half of posts from their close connections. So we developed and introduced a feed that ranked posts based on what you care about the most. Each part of the app, feed, explore, reels, uses its own algorithm tailored to how people use it. People tend to look for their closest friends and stories, but they want to discover something entirely new in Explore. We rank things differently in different parts of the app based on how people use them. Okay, so there is some massive news right off the bat here. The fact that people in 2016, before the algorithm was introduced, were missing half of their content from their close friends is just insane. I feel like pretty much nowadays, I always see content from my closest friends. I don't think I ever miss it. But in 2016, half of people without an algorithm were missing it because it was all in chronological, and your close friends and creators that you love maybe pushed way down because they posted a few hours ago, and a bunch of people you don't really care about posted since, pushing their content away. Another interesting fact is that they've picked up on is there is not one algorithm. This is something I've talked about on the channel a lot. There is multiple algorithms looking at different things, stories, reels, all of these different things that are at play. There's also individual algorithms that are, as a consumer of content, are looking at what you consume the most and how much reach. There's also algorithms for creators posting content, looking at the amount of likes that content got in general and whether to push that out to more people. There's a lot of stuff at play. And this pretty much explains why there is an algorithm. It's not just so Instagram can make a ton of money, although yes, I'm sure it does help their bottom line, but the fact that people were missing so much content from close friends and connections shows why it's actually so important to have this so people have a better experience on the app. Because I can guarantee you, if people had a better experience consuming content without an algorithm, even if it was less profitable, Instagram will be doing that. Okay, moving on to the second point, which is how we rank feed and stories. So to start this off with, over the years, we've learned that feed and stories are places where people want to see content from their friends, family, and those they are closest to. With any ranking algorithm, how it works can be broken down into steps. We start by defining the set of things we plan to rank in the first place. With feed and with stories, this is relatively simple. It's all the recent posts shared by the people you follow. There are a few exceptions like ads, but the vast majority of what you see is shared by those you follow. Pretty straightforward. Next, they look at all the information they have on what was posted. So the people who made the posts, their preferences, they call these signals. And there are literally thousands of them. Remember how I made that video, it must have been a couple months ago now, about the person who was an insider from Instagram who leaked some information saying they had over 500 data points, and people thought that was quite crazy. They've got thousands of data points. So that number was actually underestimated of what they have. They've got thousands of data points to look at all of this content. They go on to say that these data points include everything from what time a post was shared to whether you're using a phone or web to how often you like videos. Crazy. The most important signals across feed and stories, roughly in order of importance, are as follows. Information about the post. These are signals both about how popular a post is and how many people have liked it, and more mundane information about the content itself, like when it was posted, how long it is if it's a video, and what location it is posted from, if any was attached to it. Another thing they look at is information about who posted it, so this helps get a sense for how interesting the person might be to you. So for example, if the content is posted by someone that you love and you love all their content, that is going to rank higher than if the same video was posted by someone who you don't really engage with much, you don't really enjoy, and so on. Now they go on to mention that one of the ways they determine how much you like an account or a person is based off how many times you have interacted with that person in the past few weeks. Now, this is why I constantly preach that you should be using as many forms of engagement as you possibly can. Specifically, have much more engaging stories. So use story polls, use story quizzes, etc. Because if they're looking at how much someone engaged with you in the past few weeks and you're only posting once or twice a week, there's only a couple of times that that person can engage with your feed posts. And if you're posting once a week and they didn't engage with your last two, chances are your next post is not going to show up in their feed because they've had zero engagement with you over the past few weeks. However, if you've been posting stories every day with polls, with quizzes, with people asking you questions, that same person, even though they didn't engage with any of your feed content, may have been engaging with you daily. And so it's a great way that you can get your content in the feed ranking better. Another thing they look at is your activity. This helps them understand what you might be interested in and includes signals such as how many posts you've liked. The fourth most important thing is your history of interacting with someone. This gives us a sense of how interested you are generally in seeing posts from a particular person. An example is whether or not you comment on each other's posts. So this is actually a point that I mentioned in a video that I recorded yesterday, but because all of this new information has come out, I will probably post after this video has gone live because I want to get this out quickly. And that was the idea, I'll just tell you it now, is the law of reciprocity, which is the idea that when you engage with other people, you will receive more engagement back. And that has pretty much been confirmed here. If you are commenting on other people's posts and you both follow each other, they're more likely to see your content, even though it's your comment on their post. That'll cause them to see your content, if that makes sense. It won't look as cool, the fact that I've mentioned that in a video that I did record yesterday, but will come out later, but who cares? Now, based off these 4 indications, they will make a set of predictions. And these are educated guesses on how likely you are to interact with a post in different ways. Now, in feed, the 5 interactions we look at most closely are how likely you are to spend a few seconds on a post, comment on it, like it, save it, and tap on the profile photo. Again, I've been preaching so often to look at the amount of time people are spending on your content and how you can improve this. Things like using carousels, using video, and using longer captions are going to increase the amount of time that people spend on your content, which, as mentioned, is very crucial, and this has just been confirmed by Instagram. Again, this was the main point that I made in yesterday's video that I recorded, which will come out after this, is just trying to improve the amount of time people spend on your content. In that video, again, I preached how important this is in the algorithm, and that's all just been confirmed here, but I've also talked about it on other videos. Now, they go on to say later in the article, there are a few cases where we try to take other considerations into account. One example of this is where we try to avoid showing too many posts from the same person in a row. Another example is stories that were reshared from feed. Until recently, we valued these stories less because we've heard consistently that people are more interested in seeing original stories. But we see a swell of reshared posts and big moments, everything from the World Cup to social unrest. And in these moments, people were expecting their stories to reach more people than we did, so we stopped. An interesting talking point from that last paragraph, the idea that you will get less reach when you post a ton of stories in a row, which is interesting. I did notice I posted a story the other day on @Cleverpreneur where I post all my Instagram tips. Follow it if you aren't already. And in that story, I just had one single story, and it got about 1900 views. And usually on that account, I would get sort of 700 to 900. A bad one would get 500, 600, but that one got 1900, and it was only one single story up for the whole day. Part of the reason that it did so well was I had a story poll on it that lots of people voted on. But by the looks of this, another reason was the fact that I only posted one story, so I got more reach. Second point, the fact that reshared content gets less reach, which is interesting. I had also noticed this because on my personal account, I mostly just reshare content that I like, or content that I'm tagged in. I don't really post a lot on my personal, and I noticed that when I do that, my views are way down, whereas on the occasion that I post something of me, it gets way more views. So interesting on that. However, this lack of reach on content that you shared has now been stopped. So they're no longer limiting those stories. So not really anything to worry about, because as I mentioned, if you're resharing content about social issues or trying to spread a message, it's obviously not good if Instagram are limiting that, so they've stopped doing that. Now then they go on to talk a little bit about posting stuff against community guidelines, and pretty much all straightforward stuff. If you break the community guidelines, they're going to take down your content. They said if you post something that goes against our community guidelines and we find it, we take it down. If it happens repetitively, we may prevent you from sharing, and eventually we might suspend your account. If you think we've made a mistake, and they do make mistakes, you can appeal by following these steps. We won't go into that in this video. I might make a separate video going over those. Another important case to call out is misinformation. If you post something that third-party fact checkers label as misinformation, we don't take it down, but we do apply a label and show the post lower in the feed and stories. If you've posted misinformation multiple times, we may also make your content harder to find. This again is something that I talked about on my channel when I talked about the 25 things that you can do that will limit the reach of your content. And one of those things was posting false information that has been deemed false. And a lot of this was false claims around health, fitness, and finances. And so if you post content that is deemed misinformation, you will get less reach. So try and avoid this at all costs, and try and make sure what you're sharing is being backed up and fact checked. Okay, moving on to the third section, which is how we rank Explore. Now, Explore was designed to help you discover new things. The grid is made up of recommendations, photos, and videos that we go out and find for you, which is very different from feed and stories, where the vast majority of what you see is from the accounts you follow. The only exception to this is when you get to the end of your feed of people that you follow, and you start seeing content from, it's like suggested content. Now, I made a full video going over how the Explore system works. That was in December. Pretty much they create a big collection of content that you may be interested in based off what you like. They then rank it from best to worst based on a bunch of social signals, what you engage with, likes, watch time, all of that stuff we've sort of covered. And then they sort it from top to bottom, and then you can go through that content. So that's sort of the overview, and they've pretty much just explained that again here. So there's not a lot of new stuff on this. Yeah, so they pretty much just said, they've just confirmed what they said in that earlier article and what I shared in that video. Once we found, they say, the first step we take is defining a set of posts to rank, which I believe is called candidate generation. I'll put a screenshot down here from the original post. To find the photos that you might be interested in, we look at signals, all of that stuff there. Once we find a group of photos and videos you might be interested in, we then order them from how interested we think you are in each one, much like how we rank feeds and stories. So again, pretty much what I've talked about. The most important actions we predict in Explore includes likes, saves, and shares. The most important signals we look at in rough order of importance are information about the post, looking at a post, how popular a post is, so how quickly people are liking, commenting, sharing, and saving a post. These signals matter much more in Explore than they do in feed or stories. So if you want to rank on the Explore page, a lot of early engagement helps you a ton. And this is where the idea of engagement groups come in. We get a ton of other people to like your content sort of artificially to push it onto the Explore page. However, Instagram is smart. They can tell when you're using an engagement group, so these aren't really effective, and I would suggest staying away from them. Another thing I look at is your history of interacting with the person who posted. So most likely the post was shared by someone you've never heard of, but if you have interacted with them, that gives Instagram a sense of how interested you are. So if you saw their video and you watched it for 2 seconds and clicked off, that is a negative interaction. That content is less likely to rank in your feed. However, if you'd seen their content before, maybe a friend shared a post, maybe you got tagged in it and you liked it or you saved it, that's going to rank your content higher, even if other signals would say otherwise. They look at your activity and they look at information about the person who posted. This is pretty much similar to what they were talking about the feed. They look at pretty much how you engage with content and then rank content based on how you enjoy it most. You don't follow the people you see in Explore, which changes the dynamic when you come across something problematic. If a friend you follow shares something offensive and you see that in your feed, that's between you and your friend. Sort out the beef there. If you see something offensive in Explore from someone you've never heard of, that's a different situation. That's why, in addition to our community guidelines, we have rules for what we recommend in places like Explore. We call these our recommendation guidelines. These include things like avoiding potentially upsetting or sensitive posts. For example, we aim not to share content that promotes tobacco or vaping and Explore. Again, I sort of covered this in the 25 video, but pretty much avoid anything that could be deemed offensive, violent, or disturbing. That content won't rank in the Explore page, because whilst Instagram may be happy for you to post content along those lines to people who choose to follow you, they're fine with that. They don't want to be pushing that content to people who don't follow you and haven't opted in for that content. And for that reason, that stuff often doesn't do as well on Explore, which is why Explore page content often has to be a lot safer and a lot more family friendly. Okay, so onto the fourth, second to last topic, and that is how Instagram rank Reels. So Reels are designed to entertain you, much like Explore. The majority of what you see is from accounts you don't follow. Accounts you don't follow. They go on to ads, so we go through a very similar process where we first source Reels that we think you might like, and then order them based on how interesting we think they are to you. Now, I'll throw up a screenshot of the next part, but pretty much it's the same 4 things that they look at. It's the same 4 signals: your activity, your history of interacting with the person who posted, information about the reel itself, information about the person who posted. It seems like they've pretty much got the same things they look at to rank content in the feed, in the stories, in Explore and in Reels. The difference is the weights and the importance of each of these actions is different in each of these algorithms to try and create a better experience. So in Reels, they're leaning more towards content you may enjoy. In the feed, they're leaning more to creators who you may enjoy content from, which makes sense. In your feed, you care more about who the post is by rather than necessarily what the post is about. In Explore, it's the other way around. Same as Reels. You're more worried, you don't really care when you're on Explore who the post is from. You care more about the content itself. So into important differentiations between the two. So I'm not going to spend too much time going over the Reels recommendation. It's pretty much the same as Explore. It says we also avoid recommending Reels for other reasons, such as low resolution or watermarked Reels, or Reels that focus on political issues or that are made by political figures, parties, or government officials, or on their behalf. So that's, I guess, one major difference between Reels and Explore. Reels, they don't want low resolution content, and they don't want you to be downloading and reposting from TikTok with the TikTok watermark. So use a tool to remove that. And avoid political issues. So Cindy, I know you're watching the videos. Instagram Reels, not for you. Just can't cut it. You're gonna have to give that one a miss. Sorry about it. Moving on to the 5th and final part before we go into a wee bonus piece. It's shadow banning. And this is going to be interesting because they have denied the existence of shadow banning for a long time, even though we sort of all know it existed. So let's get into it. People accuse us of shadow banning or silencing them. It's a broad term that people use to describe many different experiences they have on Instagram. We recognize that we haven't always done enough to explain why we take down content when we do, what is recommendable and what isn't, and how Instagram works more broadly. As a result, we understand people are inevitably going to come to their own conclusions about why something has happened, and that those conclusions may leave people feeling confused or victimized. That's never our intention, and we're working hard on improvements here. We also manage millions of reports a day, which means making a mistake on even a small percentage of those reports affects thousands of people. We also hear that people consider their posts getting fewer likes or comments as a form of shadow banning. We can't promise you that you'll consistently reach the same amount of people when you post. The truth is, most of your followers won't see what you share because most look at less than half of their feed. But we can be more transparent about why we take things down when we do, work to make fewer mistakes, and fix them quickly when we do, and better explain how our system works. We're developing better in-app notifications so that people know in the moment why, for instance, their post was taken down, and exploring ways to let people know when their post goes against our community guidelines. So there was nothing really in that passage which really addressed what people consider shadow banning. They mostly talked about when people have their post taken down, which is not really what the community considers shadow banning. People often consider this when your content instantly gets less reach. So you go from reaching across your entire profile 10,000 people a day, and you consistently have 10, 11, 12,000, sometimes 9,000 in reach per day for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then instantly it drops down to like 500 people per day. That's what people consider shadow banning. They haven't really touched on this, so sadly not a lot of information there, although they do say that most people see less than half of their feed, which pretty much means you just got to be in that best 50% and work on improving your content so you've got targeted followers that love what you post, developing those true fans that we talk about, and by doing that you will receive more engagement from them. The people who follow you, you will be sitting in their top 50% of content they do see, and that'll give you better reach. Now, before we wrap up this video, there's a bonus wee thing at the end where it says how you can influence what you see. So as a user, as a consumer of the platform, how can you influence what you see more of? Firstly, pick your close friends. Now you can select your close friends for stories. This was designed as a way to let you share with just the people closest to you, but we will also prioritize these friends in both feed and stories. Now this is interesting. If you add people as a close friend, you will see more of their content. I think, and this is just a random idea, the idea of that law of reciprocity, if you add a lot of people as your close friends and you start posting to your close friend's story, those people will see that you've added them as a close friend. And because of that, they are more likely to add you as a close friend. So if you were to do this and you were to add a ton of people to your close friends list and post content there, don't post anything that's going to get you in trouble or that is too private, because treat it like a public story. You would get a lot more people adding you to their close friends. And from that, you would then rank higher in their feed and receive more engagement. So that is just a little trick that you could try. Okay, second thing is mute people you're not interested in. You can mute an account if you'd like to stop seeing what they see, stop seeing what they share, but are hesitant about unfollowing them entirely. This way people don't know that you've muted them. Honestly, if you don't enjoy someone's content, unfollow them. Have the balls to go out there and just unfollow someone if you don't enjoy them. Who cares? If you don't like that person or you don't enjoy their content, unfollow them. Stop trying to not touch anyone's feelings by muting them instead. I understand muting content if you want your feed, like I've muted everyone on Instagram at times because I just want to use the messaging function and just get work done and not get distracted by it. But if you don't like someone, just unfollow them. It's simple. Stop trying to please everyone by following them. It's not that deep. And then third, mark posts as not interested in. Whenever you see a recommendation on the explore page, feed, reels, etc., you can indicate not interested in that post, and Instagram will take that as a note and try and avoid sharing that with you in the future. Now, finally, the article is finished off with providing more context on how content is ranked, shown, and moderated on Instagram is only part of the equation. There is more we can do to help you shape your Instagram experience based on what you like. We also need to continue to improve our ranking technology and, of course, make fewer mistakes. Our plan is to be proactive about explaining our work across all three areas from here on out. Stay tuned. Awesome to see Instagram putting out all of this content, explaining how things work. A lot of other social platforms aren't doing this. So I think it's really cool that Instagram are creating these articles, explaining how things work, and I think it is just better for everyone to have this transparency about how the platform works. And that should help you both as a user of the platform who consumes content, as a creator, as a business, all around. I'm happy to see it. And I may go out and make some in-depth specific videos on each of these topics and go more in depth. I just sort of wanted to get this out quickly as it's new information, react to it, give my thoughts, and add some context to it. And so that wraps up today's video. A big one with a lot of stuff we've covered. Feel free to save this video and go back and watch certain segments where I talked about certain different things. I will try and make segments so you can go back to just look at the feed or just look at reels or stories or whatever. And yeah, hopefully you learned something and got something out of this. Make sure if you enjoyed the video, leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, where we're going over articles, updates, new leaked features. Recently, my most recent video, I talked about a brand new feature that has just come out that I actually leaked 2 months ago. So if you want to get that stuff, subscribe to the channel. And if you want more in-depth content about how to build and monetize your audience on Instagram, you want the more in-depth strategies that I don't share on the channel, go and grab them. I've got my paid ebook and crash course down below, currently discounted down to just $9. So feel free to go and grab that. That's it from me. See you all in the next video. Have an awesome one, and hopefully this gives you more clarity on how Instagram works and allows you to go and get better results with the platform. That's it from me. See you next time.